Hello and welcome to the State of Events, where event professionals connect. What's up, industry friends? As always, thank you so much for joining the State of Events. My name is Sonia Alcazar Collier, your host. This month we are discussing resilience, how to come back after a setback. In this series, we will hear from 3 different professionals from various walks of life. Jerome Fogel helps build leaders and their companies. He is known as a leader among leaders, receiving accolades for his work developing business for Fortune 500 companies, serving and developing leaders at nonprofits and universities, and co-founding the law firm Fogel and Potamianos, LLP, that helps companies lead in today's market. He currently serves as general counsel to various companies and leadership coach to CEOs and executives. Jerome lives in Los Angeles with his wife, Sherry. What's up, Jerome?
Hey, Sonia. Great to be here with you.
So, Jerome, this month we are talking about resilience. I really felt it strong to sort of build up our listeners and our industry professionals in this area of resilience and try to communicate what resilience is and how to really establish that during this time where we really can't, go out and procure work as we did once upon a time.
Right.
So just in talking about resilience and in the work that you do, can you tell our listeners a little bit about what it is that you do and a little bit about your leadership as well?
Right. No, happy to. So I'm an attorney with Fogel and Potamianos, and what we do is we help companies lead in today's market. So I'll often serve as an offsite general counsel, and it's typically small and lower middle market companies, entrepreneurs, and they're trying to get a handle on, market changes and their business. And so what I do is I advise them on strategy. I advise them on how to build their business, how to reduce risk. But then I also get a chance to coach some of these leaders on the leadership side. So those are the 2 things I really do, is that as an attorney and as a leadership coach.
That's awesome. I'm sure you kind of face this whole topic of resilience a lot with your startup companies and entrepreneurs.
Oh, for sure. I just think that what I see is that these entrepreneurs, they are so savvy, they adapt. And, the great ones are already thinking ahead and they've adapted to changes. But I do see that they're very resilient. It's hard to really keep them down.
Jerome, what does resilience mean to you? If you can tell someone who maybe has no idea what that word even means, what does that mean for you in the context of what you do?
I think you have to have the passion and the purpose to persevere through difficulty. And that's really what, for me, resilience is. It's those 2 things. You have passion and you have purpose. And those things are going to carry you through. For instance, in this time when maybe someone may not be making the same revenue they were or have the same opportunities, what's going to drive you? And I feel like if you have that passion and purpose, it'll drive you to persevere through the difficult times.
That's so good. That's so good. But I feel like too, that's also a little bit of it's a hard understanding of how do I actually build that? What does that look like? So just in getting into that and your experience working with entrepreneurs, specifically those who have small businesses, have their own sort of IP, what are some of the significant pitfalls that you have seen entrepreneurs and small business owners go through?
That's a really good question. And what I'm seeing 3 different things. One is some of them lose hope. Once you get beyond dropping, over 60% revenue, I think becomes a loss of hope if you have to lay off staff or furloughs. So I think hopelessness is really one thing where you feel like there's no way out of this dark tunnel. And so I think hopelessness is a big one. Another one I would say is isolation, where you're becoming a closed system rather than an open system. So you're not taking in new, fresh ideas, new perspectives, new strategies. You're kind of sticking with what you did before, even though things have totally changed around you. So the second thing would be isolation. And I'd say the third thing would be lack of clarity around your purpose. Because if your company, you're profitable, well, what happens when profitability changes and there's no more revenue? Do you still have a purpose? The answer is you do, but you have to find a purpose greater than simply profitability and making revenue. And if you can find that purpose, then you can have the resiliency, you can still have hope, You can get with other people and not be in isolation, and then you have a purpose to continue on.
That's so good. It's almost like you're communicating that, your purpose is the unshakable component of what you do. The money will come and go. The clients will come and go. Maybe even some of the services that you provide are not consistent for whatever reason. But it sounds like if you can anchor yourself in that purpose, then you're better off to actually build up resilience.
Yeah, I like what you said. You said kind of this unshakable purpose, because for entrepreneurs, cash is king and it's the lifeblood of your organization. But what I've really realized is actually relationships are king. Because if you have relationships and you deeply understand and connect with people, you're going to understand what their needs are, and you're going to be able to create value for them, and you're going to get paid for that value, and that will create cash. And so I think that part of the resilience is realizing, hey, all right, there may be some revenue cash issues, but I can focus on what I can control, which is building those relationships. And that's something that I can do, because I think we lose resilience when we lose hope and we don't think there's anything we can control. And so, I think the key is shifting from profitability to relationships is a shift that you can make when you're trying to find resilience.
That's so good. When we were kind of preparing for this, you and I had this discussion, and you went through these 3 points that I thought were so critical for people to hear, particularly in the event space. You talked about this idea of grow, relate, and create in the context of control. Can you go into that for our listeners a little bit?
Yeah. So it's actually happened last week before we were talking, which was great. And the idea is really as entrepreneurs, as business owners, whether you're in events, whatever it is that you do, you're really good at controlling the controllables. But what happens is in a time like COVID, there becomes so much more out of control. So the same levers that you used to push that were in your control are no longer in your control. And so the trap can be to try to still push the same levers. So what I thought about is, hey, for me as a leader, what are 3 things that I have control over? And those things are grow, relate, and create. So I can grow, I can learn, I can develop, I can listen to podcasts like yours, I can look at John Maxwell, I can read books, I can talk to people, I can take classes, I can learn and grow and develop. So I have control over that, and that'll position me for opportunities that are to come. So growth is really important. And the second thing is relate, and we just talked about that. Relationships are key, and I really feel like, your network is your net worth. And so, the people that are gonna be the opportunities that you're gonna have. So focus on relationships, checking how people are doing, reaching out to people you didn't think maybe would reach back out to you. I've done that a lot. It's always surprising. Yeah. So, building those relationships and relating to people is so important. And the third thing is create. So, whether it's, writing or a podcast or new business models, or it's, just creating outside of the box thinking, you can create new things, and you can create. I love Peter Drucker's quote. He says, the best way to predict the future is to create it. So it's really creating something new that's never been done before. And so if you focus on creating, then you don't have to get trapped into thinking about what's not in my control.
Yeah. Come on, quote in hip hop. Your network is your net worth. Yes, that is so true. And it's so important too, because I feel that just as we sort of identify, best practices within the event industry, I think we're moving closer and closer to this joint consensus that collaboration and partnerships are so important for us. And I think during this time where we're all, sort of shut in by the crisis that we face in our world, we're even relying on that even more. In fact, being able to get work in a pandemic for me happened because of the collaboration and the partnership forward mentality that I have. And so it's so important. And that create portion of that sort of, those 3 points, the create is so important for us. Event producers and coordinators, we're often looked to for our leadership and our guidance and our direction. Yet not all of us truly really feel that we're even leaders or have even really come to that perspective that like, wow, I might be a leader. Can you talk a little bit about that in the context of what you do with developing leaders?
That's a great question. And I think that, John Maxwell, who's a leadership, guru that I look to a lot, he says leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. So if you can influence people, you are a leader. So if you're putting together an event, you're putting together, these massive coordinating different factors and different things and shows and people. I mean, you're coordinating a lot. You're having people to pitch your ideas to. So you're a leader, whether you see yourself or not. The way I look at it too is that leadership begins with service. And so the idea about a leader is you're looking out for other people. So you're serving your clients. You're trying to help them articulate their vision. You're trying to bring out what their goals and their values are and then create something around that. So I think it's this: if you can serve somebody else, if you can influence them, then you're a leader. And so really, as an event producer, as an entrepreneur, you are a leader. And even the people who are working on your team, they're leaders, because when it comes time for the event, people are looking to them as an extension of you as the CEO. You're an extension of the company, and they're leaders on the front lines too. So I don't think leadership is limited to, CEOs and presidents. It's everybody can be a leader.
It's so good. It's so good. And to that point, so you wrote an incredible book called The Gauntlet. And it's a leadership book, and I am in, I think, the 3rd chapter right now. I have not finished it, but I definitely need to finish that out. And I love how you just, without giving too many spoiler alerts, I love how you show leadership through a story, because I think if we can all identify some area that we can relate to that is a reflection of ourselves, then we maybe can be thrust into the leadership that we really were called to be in. Can you talk a little bit about your book? Tell our listeners about it.
Yeah, so it's called The Gauntlet, 5 Keys for Unlocking Success in Leadership. And it traces the story of Jason Irving, who's an up-and-coming executive, and he faces the greatest leadership challenge of his life. But in that challenge, he meets this guru, Nick Savant, who teaches him the 5 keys of leadership. And this was really birthed out of my own transformational experience. And so the things that I'm sharing are things that I've learned and things that I felt impacted me. And it's really meant for, leaders of leaders on one hand, where you're leading large groups of people and you're looking for kind of that edge or something different or different take on leadership and something you can share with them. But it's also meant for people, and I've been one of these before, where you maybe don't think you're a leader, or maybe you've had, a setback and you wonder whether you're a leader. So this book is meant to encourage you that yes, you can be a leader, and here's how, and here's the steps you can take. So I've had, people from, executives of companies to, pastors of really influential and powerful and great churches, to just, people who are everyday people who are on the front lines of companies saying, hey, this book really impacted me.
So great. If I am someone during this time looking to understand resilience during this time, so that I can be bigger, better, and stronger after this, what would be some maybe 3 examples of how I can strategically during this time develop within myself some attributes and some qualities that I can leave out of this time stronger, better, and wiser?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So number 1 is the first thing you do in the morning, please don't turn on the news. Please don't
say that again.
Please don't turn on social media. Please get your mind right. Okay, for me, I have a gratitude list. I have a list of things I pray about. And I have some statements that I read. This one's particular from John Maxwell on leading through crisis. And so I just read through positive statements that are giving me a bigger perspective. So the first thing is like set your morning right. So I think as a person, that's the first thing. I think the second thing is you need to adapt. So, right now, what is not what's going to be, and what was is not what is. And so it's really adapting to what's right now. And so creating the business that is going to be the business of the future, not the business of right now. So I think that's something that you really want to do to adapt. And then I think the third thing is, and I think I talked about this, I think relationships, again, is key. So really build those relationships, foster those relationships, talk about resilience, I heard a great question yesterday. Somebody called me who's in the insurance business. He said, "Hey, Jerome, what are you missing right now? What do you miss?" I just thought that was a really great question. Like, what do you miss? And it got me in touch with some loss that I'm experiencing. Maybe I miss going on vacation. I miss going out with my wife to dinner. So it kind of got me in touch with loss. But then another great question might be, hey, what changes have you made during this pandemic that you're going to continue to make, that you're always going to make? Or one question might be, what's the first thing you're going to do when you're out of this pandemic? But just so find ways to relate to people and grow and connect with people as well.
That's so good. So to reiterate that, I got to set my morning up right. Got to make sure can coffee go along with that?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Your beverage of choice or your shake. Then I have to identify what was is not what is, and what is not what's going to be. That's so great. That's resilience, I think, in a nutshell, first of all.
Yeah.
And the last thing is, what was the last thing?
Relate. It's just
relate.
Yes. Relate to people. And there's little questions you can use to help you with that, but to kind of uncover self-awareness with people and relate to them and connect.
That's so good. And I think that also too, if you're identifying your relationships in the season, it's almost a surefire way to make sure that you have relationships after the season, right?
Yes. You know, the best time, you don't want to try to make a friend in a crisis. You want to have one before you get to there, you know?
Come on. Yeah, that's so true. That is so true. This is so great. This is such great information. Yeah. Another thing that you and I kind of went over that I really want to just kind of, I know you're in a different space in terms of our industries, and we maybe don't necessarily cross, but one of the things that I've noticed just in my 8 to 12 years, I think. I can't even remember the first event I ever did professionally. But in my industry, I've noticed that and it's kind of dissipating, but there's always been this sort of competitive nature. There's always been a, cutthroat, a bidding war. I mean, it got really ugly during certain seasons for me anyway. And for me, I'm actually like a collaborator. I love to work in the context of a team. I love to work with other people. I thrive best when I actually have a team. And so this competitive nature, although it can almost be a pitfall, you kind of get into it sometimes and you don't even know. But I felt like my heart has always been to find ways to counter any competitive nature that I might find in the context of my work. And so you and I went over this really awesome dynamic of finding your niche versus versus competition, niche versus competition. So can you give me an example of that, and including the economic strategy that you and I spoke about?
Right. Okay. So this is a fantastic question. So there's a really influential article by a guy named Michael Porter in the Harvard Business Review, and it's called basically 5 Forces of Competition. And if you break down what he says, he basically says this: if you are competing against rivals and you are basically offering the same thing, what happens is people start to compete on price. It erodes your profit margins, and then your business kind of goes into a spiral. So what he argues instead argues for having a strategic position where you're differentiated from your competitors and you have basically strengths and systems that are developed to that. I'll give you an example of each and opposite. So an example of intense rivalry, which is he doesn't advise, is for airlines. It's cutthroat, they're competitive, they basically offer the same product and they compete often on price, and that drives down margins and profitability. It's a very difficult industry, especially now, to be in, right? On the other hand, you look at somebody like IKEA, okay? So they create furniture that's very stylish, but it's for the person who's kind of the do-it-yourself person. They don't have many people helping you when you're at IKEA. It's by deliberate, because it's for the person who wants the style but wants to do it themselves and wants to take it home in the car. For instance, it's not for me, but all their systems, their logistics, everything is based around this concept, and they're very successful. So what I'm saying is, in the events industry, if everybody's I'm just doing events, then I think there's a problem. But if you have a specific niche or a specific thing that you do, maybe it's something with in weddings specific that you do, or in schools, or maybe it's something in, you know, corporate events, but you develop a specific audience that you cater to. And if you basically create value that nobody else can create, then you have a competitive position versus just competing on price. Because if you're all competing on price, you're going to erode each other's profit margins, and you're going to have to do more business to make the same amount of money. And the quality is going to go down, and you kind of just go into this spiral. So you want to avoid, the bottom line is intense rivalries based on just price. You want to find a strategic position that you can take based on your strengths, serving a certain need of customers, and everyone can win. This is a thing where everyone can take their different spot, and it's not like you don't have to compete to the death, you know, so to speak.
Right. I'm also hearing too, competition affects your profit margin. That is huge.
Right.
That is huge. I don't think people, at least many people that I've come across in this industry, I don't think that's a wide perspective that we have. I think it's more so there's money to be had by all, so let's all go after the same thing. And I think that what we're noticing in the last couple of years is we're noticing that we have to have these niches because they're making it so that we can actually hone in on, hey, I found an area of profitability that can actually work in my favor. And so I think we need to do more of this, and that actually provides a better space for us to collaborate. If you do something that I don't do within the context of the event industry ecosystem,
right,
then we're going to be stronger together, and we're going to actually strengthen the industry.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. No, it's one more example just because it's so good.
Yeah.
I'll make a plug here. I'm not paid to do this. There's a suit retailer called Jimmy Oz. Okay. They're unique because it's only for men 5'8" or under. Okay.
Oh, wow.
My wife and I would walk by this place. I'm like, no, I'm not going to go in there. And then, you know, but eventually, you know, it had this one funny quote. What are you waiting for? A growth spurt? They said, come on in. So you come in, but everything there's no baggy sizes. It's all formed. They take your measurements. I mean, people like, you know, actors and Tom Cruise and all these other, you know, Jason Alexander, there's tons of people that go there in the Hollywood entertainment industry. But what you find is like, hey, this is a niche that they've developed.
Yep.
They have incredible quality, but they're only for this size because we have a certain need. And so I think they have a fantastic niche. Nobody else is doing it, and they have great service. And I'm like, okay, look, this is a great niche that they've developed. And I'm just saying a lot of people can do this and they just don't realize it.
Right. I think also too, if you identify that, you know, I can't do something, or I'm not resourced to do something and someone else is, I think that actually provides value to our industry as well, because it's almost like you come to a one-stop shop, but the one-stop shop is actually filled with a bunch of service providers that are all differing in what they supply. And that's huge for our industry, because we want to be able to be the resource that I mean, the name event industry, to me, that category, that automatically means, oh, there's a lot of resources there. There's a lot of resources there. So I think and that's how you do it. You identify, hey, what are you, I really don't like that saying jack of all trades, or I wear all these hats. And so I don't like that. And I think that that's counterproductive, because I'm not supposed to be able to do everything. That actually takes out the team and collaborative structure if I think I can do everything, or if I try to make it so that I provide everything. But instead, I am a master of one, and I do one or maybe a couple really well. And the things that I maybe am not gifted or called to do, I actually have a great team who can serve those things. Right.
Yeah, you have to know your strengths, and you can serve people with your strengths, and you got to build on those and delegate and refer the rest out. You know, you don't have to take every piece of business that comes in.
So good. One of the last things I wanted to cover is, you know, building resilience after crisis is it's great in theory, right? Yeah, I'm going to be more resilient after this time. But how does one actively build resilience?
I have a couple of thoughts. Here's one thought is you go through it and you learn from it. And so, you know, the people who are really resilient didn't just all of a sudden wake up one day and they were resilient. They went through something. They went through business upheavals. They went through relationship issues. They went through the 2008 crisis. So I think the people that are resilient, you can be encouraged that they didn't just wake up one day and be resilient. They had to practice it and get there. So I think that's the first thing, is you got to practice go through it. The other thing, and this is the thought that kind of came to me yesterday, is here's the question. Are you in a cave or are you in a mine? Because if you're in a cave, you're in a dark, lonely, isolated place. There's no purpose. There's no exit. And you kind of don't know what to do from there. But if you're in a mine, you're kind of in a dark place, but you're on an adventure. You're looking for something. You're working for something, and you're digging for something, and you're looking for gold. You're looking for something, your wisdom, your insight, your creativity that you can bring to the outside world. So if you have that perspective shift that, hey, this is a tough space, but I'm not in a cave with no purpose, no except I'm in a mine. I'm in a place where I have a purpose, and I just have to find it and work for it. And I can come out and bring something, because listen, the greatest lessons came out of adversity. The greatest lessons always come out of adversity. You have something great to share. Your business has some great purpose to accomplish in this season.
That's so great. That's so great. Purpose is the word of the day. So great. Jerome, this has been, oh my gosh, just in the short time, I feel like we've been on this for like 2 hours, but we haven't.
Right?
It's so meaty. I really appreciate this. How can we get a hold of you? How can we seek you out if I'm, in need of some leadership development, or even from on the lawyer side, if I'm in need of your services?
Yeah.
Also, how do I get a hold of your book?
Okay, cool. So I'll start. The first one's easy. You can find it on Amazon. It's available on Amazon. You can order it, or you can get it via Kindle on Amazon. So it's really easy to find. Just search for The Gauntlet and my name, Jerome Fogel. The next thing is, if you're in a business and you just want to talk to me about potentially just some ideas that you have, you want some strategic advice in terms of legal strategies, you can reach me at fpgeneralcounsel.com. That's the legal website. And then on the leadership level, I'm at just my name, jeromefogel.com. And you can contact me there. I do, leadership and executive coaching. I do stuff that's with the book and without the book and different testing. So, and also on Instagram, I'm at Jerome Fogel LA, and I post usually a couple things a week, a video or a thought, and that's all basically just for everybody, just so they can kind of get engaged and learn more every week. So those are the main places they can reach me.
So great. Thank you so much for contributing today. This has been, so far we have had some contributors to the topic of resiliency that are just golden, and I'm so appreciative of your time. One little fun question. So what is one new thing during this pandemic that you have either started or done, or maybe, taken on? Maybe you're trying a new hair product. I don't know. You got great hair.
Listen, thanks for having me. So, my sister cut my hair last week. So, that was interesting. She did a great job, really. I'm very thankful. So I'd say the one new thing that I'm doing that's really cool is as a firm, we're doing a webinar, a panel discussion every month. So I'm moderating a panel every month, and we have, this month we have CEOs and investment bankers. And so we're talking about strategy in the crisis. So we're going to have a new panel every month. So for me, it's just a new business strategy, something I never would have done before, but it's just so cool to be able to do it. And that's part of the reason why I had my hair cut, because this Friday I'm going to be on the panel. So I'm like, I got to get this.
Yeah, you are. I got to look good.
Hair taken care of, And so, it looks, I just need the front shot to be right.
Right.
All
you can have a party in the back if you want to.
As good as you can. You know what I mean?
So great. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much. And hey, if you guys want to hear more about what we're doing this month with Resilience, please follow us at _state of events. And you can find that on all of our social. And you can also send us an email at thestateofevents@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening. See you next time.
You've been listening to The State of Events, where event professionals connect. For more episodes, you can find us on iTunes Podcast, Spotify, and Podbean. To engage with us on social media, you can find us at _state of events. Also, we would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, topic suggestions, or if you'd like to sponsor an upcoming episode, please send us an email to thestateofevents@gmail.com. Thanks so much for joining. Let's blossom together.